We are up and running, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Lead Through Sport, the podcast, aka Spotlight Thursdays. And I have a special guest today. I have Aisha Foy, Virginia Beach's own. How you doing, Aisha?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. Glad to be here. I love what you're doing.
Absolutely, I appreciate that. Well, Lead Through Sport is a platform that spotlights former and current athletes, entrepreneurs, and creators on their journey to success, providing people with knowledge nuggets for life. And I thought you were somebody perfect, being from the 757. Doing what you've done up to this point. I feel like you can give a lot back to these, people trying to do great things in life.
Absolutely. And I appreciate you looking at me in that light for sure.
Absolutely. So let's start with a couple icebreakers, man. Tell us your age, education, playing background, and what you do now.
Okay, so I'm 27. Yeah, I'm 27. I'm getting to that point where I'm starting to forget my age. Cause like, hey, I'm really almost 30. But yeah, grew up in the 757, playing for Norfolk Express, playing for Boo Williams. Basketball was everything. Um, I mean, that's basically how I started for me. Just everything was about basketball. So, you know how we do in the 757. So
Absolutely. I'm glad you brought up Norfolk Express because your mom is the founder of Norfolk Express, isn't she?
yeah, she is.
What year did she find that?
Um 2004 maybe. Yeah, 2004. I was 9, so fourth grade. Yeah, so
Oh, I didn't realize Norfolk Express been around that long.
yep, yep. When I was 9 when it opened and
Yeah,
came about. So that was cool.
I got you. Also, before we start, give us a fun fact about yourself.
A fun fact.
Yeah.
I have a dog named Mamba, named after Kobe. He's a mini golden doodle, super curly, super cute. Um, and the groomer at PetSmart cut all his hair off recently, and
I know. I think I
I
seen
could
that on
I could
Instagram. I
have
know you
killed
was
him,
pissed.
but it's all good. It'll grow back.
Facts. So tell us about what you do now. You're the director of recruiting at Kentucky for women's basketball. Tell us about your day-to-day responsibilities and duties. How does that work?
Yeah, I mean it's a pretty unique position. Before I got the job, it wasn't any directors of recruiting for women's basketball. There was a recruiting specialist or recruiting analyst for University of Florida, but nothing with the title that I have and kind of the role that I have. But basically, I just support the coaches in recruiting efforts. If anybody's familiar with a director of operations, it's
Hmm.
kind of like that, but with specifically recruiting. Um, but the unique approach I bring is personal branding, helping the coaches kind of connect with prospective student athletes, through social media, through their brand, and just giving them tips and trying to, when people come on campus, I help facilitate that and things like that. But just trying to highlight the program and the special people that we have in the program. So it's pretty cool. But day to day is just doing things, whatever the coaches need, just supporting in all recruiting efforts.
Got you. So is that were you aspiring to be an actual assistant coach and you just fell in that direction, or how did that work?
So as I mentioned earlier, this job wasn't a thing to kind of to look toward because it didn't exist. So I actually wrote out my whole career plan my freshman year of college, and my first stop was to be a graduate assistant, and then it was to be a director of operations, and then assistant coach, and then the head coach. Um, but I'm be honest with you, if I was anybody's director of operations, the program would probably fall to the ground because the responsibility that director of operations have is crazy. So I think this job was perfect for me because it's entry level. Or at least the approach that they took was entry level, but at the same time, it's in a part that I love. So
Mhm.
technically, like I aspire at this point to kind of be operations or maybe an assistant coach at this time, but this job was perfect for me because I love recruiting. I have an approach to sales and marketing and things like that. So it was
Mhm.
kind of like more than what I asked for, or more than what I aspired to. I couldn't imagine being that.
Got you. So you had a graduate assistant position at SEMO. Talk to us about a little bit about your experience there.
Yeah, so that was crazy. I even to this day that probably was the hardest 2 years of my life. And graduate assistants, they do all the things, they do all their responsibilities, and they do all the things that the assistant coaches don't feel like doing. Also, all the things that the head coach don't feel like doing, or little things here and there. And I can say that my boss, Rika Patterson, she saw potential in me, and she literally wanted to squeeze everything out of me. So it was super overwhelming, but it was very rewarding because of the position that I ended up, the reward I ended up getting after that, and everything that I learned. I got to touch every aspect of the program. I got to be a full-fledged video coordinator, manage social media, assist in recruiting. I managed camps. I got to run the kids camp. I got to do a whole lot just to get that experience under my belt in a short period of time. So it was overwhelming, but it was definitely rewarding and a good place to get your foot in the door when you're trying to get into coaching.
For any, current student athlete that aspires to be a graduate assistant, can you talk about the, like the pros and cons that comes with that position?
Pros and cons. So I would say I'll start with the cons. The cons is you have to grow up really quickly. There's a quick switch between you getting fed everything to you having to be that person, helping the student athlete. And it's kind of like having a younger sibling, or like it's kind of like a quick transition very quickly. So getting over yourself, you go from being the best thing ever to nobody caring about you at all. You having to do all this work for people who really don't care about you. You know what I'm saying? In the grand scheme of things, they care about you, but they student athletes, so they go on about their business. You don't understand all the work that goes into it. So I would say that's the kind. Also, like, it's very demanding, depending on who you work for and things like that. It's very demanding. And also, like, you don't have a break between really being a player and caring everything about basketball to going and working for a team. I said, like, on my first week on the job, I thought about basketball probably more than I thought about it my whole 4 years. And that's kind of like hard to imagine when you're a player, because you think all you're doing is basketball. So that's the only necessarily con. Those things are like unnecessarily con, but I mean, the pros is like you get to literally, in the same breath, you get to literally go from player to coach. You get to literally get your foot in the door and be able to immerse yourself in a profession and immerse yourself. Like, you got mentors. Everybody wants to help the GAs. Networking opportunities. Really, the sky's the limit when you a GA. So I would just say it's probably the best way to get your foot in the door coming out of school, if you really want to get into coaching. Because the later you wait, nothing wrong with wait until later, because you get to grow up a little bit and learn more about yourself. But at the same time, it just depends on how ready you are. But the quicker you get in, the better. Especially
I was a grad assistant too, coming out, and there's nothing like, for one, like you said, I didn't want to wait too late, because like, you got to, once you got the ball rolling and you got the people in your corner, it's so much easier to keep going. Had to take advantage of the free opportunity, the free education, and there's nothing like being able to go from, like you said, player learning from the coaches to now I'm actually giving back. And my favorite part about coaching is like just giving back the knowledge that I've learned and telling them, like showing them the ropes, just, talk about your experiences and helping them being better. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. And again, it happens quick. So it's like kind of surreal, but when you really look at like the opportunity that you have, it's like unexplainable. It's crazy.
Absolutely. So I want to ask you, where does your inspiration come from? Like in basketball in general, who inspired you to start playing and just to keep going?
I would say a lot of different things. I kind of took initiative to get out there on my own. And when I was young, I started playing when I was 8, and my sister was on a 10 and under team, and I was 6. And what I would do, I would just get up and run with the team. And when I was ready to kind of get on the team, for whatever reason, my sister's coach had asked her to be her assistant. And then, my mom responded, and my mom responded under one condition: you have to train my baby, right? So, I kind of just from there, I just kind of went into it head first and just kind of set goals for myself and kept going. But I'm also inspired by like giving back. That's probably the best thing out of all of it. Is like you have people looking up to you, you have people excited about your game, you have people, just like you become a role model, and that part is very exciting, and it keeps you going. Yeah, I probably like that aspect of it more than I actually like basketball.
Mm-hmm.
And you really don't figure that out until later in life, but it was really about just trying to set the example and trying to, do something, put your mind to something, and then just go out and do it.
Absolutely. I respect that. I respect that a whole lot. So this next segment I have is called a salute session, and I want to run down a whole bunch of things that you have been doing up to this point and things that you've done that are, salutable, that we commend in the community. So starting off with your playing days, you were first team All Big South and second team All Big South during your playing days. You served on the executive board of the Student Athlete Advisory Committee for 3 years. Since you started, you've been one of the youngest recruiting directors in the country. You were a presenter at the Women's Basketball Coaches Association at the Final Four convention in 2018, and your presentation was on improving social media strategies for athletic programs. And you are also the author of Success is My Major, and you also have your own masterclass to go along with that. Everybody that's watching, I need everybody to clap. That's a lot of good stuff at 27. Real talk. And the two things that I want to highlight is the convention when you talk and your book and everything. So let's talk about the convention first. What was that like? Because I assume you were 23, 24.
Yeah. At that time, I was either 23 or 22. Actually, it was going into my second year. No. I was 22.
Mm-hmm.
I was 22. I was no, I was 23. My bad. I was 23. So it was very terrifying, I'll be honest with you. But I knew it was necessary. But the crazy thing is, well, what happened was basically the convention comes out and they have this schedule.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just like, there's nothing on the schedule about social media. You know what I'm saying? And I like to speak, I like to give back, I like to share information. And then so I was like, I emailed them, hey, I don't see anything about social media. Can I jump on the schedule? And then they quickly responded, was like, yes, send us an outline of your presentation, XYZ. So I remember it was spring break. And it's so crazy because I was sitting there thinking in my head, like, I didn't go anywhere for spring break. I didn't go home. And I remember thinking, like, I'm going to thank myself for really chilling out this spring break and thinking about my future and doing something to benefit my future. So, so I put together a presentation and I submitted it, and then they got approved. They, it was ready for me. So doing that process again, like I was kind of like just going, like it was a weird, overwhelming time of my life. But I just knew I had to do something. So, and it's crazy. Like during the time where I was presenting, I was in the middle of interviewing for the job that I have now. So sorry. So part of my interview, Kentucky actually sent somebody to the presentation.
Yeah.
So, I didn't know they was gonna come when I put together a presentation, but I had Kentucky in there, like as an example of how you do your social media and stuff like that. So it was surreal and it was exciting, and I got to bring a unique approach to how to help coaches, because when you're an assistant coach, it's like you kind of get looked at like, what do you know? When you're a young assistant, it's like, what do you know? You got to pay your dues and stuff like that, XYZ. And I'm fine with that. But I always think about ways to be different. I always think about ways to have a unique approach. So, yeah, and I it was very rewarding the way that happened.
Yeah, it's all about bringing and adding value to the situation. They'll always have a spot for you if you're versatile. So that's perfect. And I know you heard the term new levels, new devils. And like you said, that was a tough time for you. But like, talk to me about how did you overcome that fear of, maybe it wasn't fear, but how did you overcome that moment of being around all those coaches, being so young, being in that moment, and controlling that moment of not being overwhelmed during that time?
See, I don't know if I did this successfully.
I'm
Sorry,
sorry to
my
cut you
dog
off.
is acting the food.
Now you good. Sorry to cut
You
you
know.
off, but because sometimes, like now, every time I elevate to a new level, I kind of feel the same way. Like I'll be nervous during some stuff. I didn't practice. I know what I'm doing, but I'll still be kind of nervous. So, how do you overcome those kind of things?
Um, I would back then. I would say I didn't do a really good job of overcoming it. Like I was very I was terrified, but I didn't know I was terrified. You know what I'm saying? Because I was so used to. I mean, the whole GA experience is terrifying. So like I was just so used to being stressed that I just put my trust in my material that I was going to show. I put my trust in the knowledge that I had, and I knew regardless of how I felt, that people was going to get value from the presentation. And the way I presented it through Twitter. So basically, I tweeted the presentation through a hashtag, and then all you gotta do is click on the hashtag and scroll, and there's the presentation. I went over it. So I had faith in my content, had faith in my knowledge, and then also, once I know what I'm talking about, I'm a pretty good speaker. So I had faith in the practice, but I can't say that I wasn't terrified during that time. But to be honest, I didn't realize I was until I kind of like settled down with myself and kind of just relaxed a little bit.
I got you. It'd be like that sometime, man.
It's
So,
going like
this is my major. How did all of this come about? You have a really clean, nice platform for the community. I just wanted to say so. How did that come about?
I would say the book alone came about by hold on right quick. I'm gonna just add him on to the thing so I can be a little bit focused when I talk. So the book alone came about because books inspired me. So I felt like I had to write a book. A lot of people ask me what inspired me or what gave me the courage to write a book and stuff like that. And I feel like I couldn't not write it. I don't think I would have anything that I have or have the life that I have if I didn't dedicate myself to personal development. And the way I really started to dedicate myself to personal development was through reading, because I felt like, how people like try and tell you stuff and, try and give you advice and stuff, but they don't really thoroughly explain themselves. Or they may give you advice based off of like what they believe, and they haven't even studied you for real, for real. They don't really know a whole lot about you. So they're just giving their own perspective. They're giving their own interpretation of you without really knowing you. So I had to take it upon myself to really figure out what people were talking about and evaluate myself and have my own plan of action to improve. So I thought it was very critical for me to share that information, because if I feel like I had a very transformational college experience and it's very unique. So I felt like I had to kind of share it. But as far as like the branding and the platform that comes with it, that's just from me studying branding. I named the book. I was strategic about how I named the book and everything that was on the cover and things like that. So, just studying branding and also trying to figure out what's the best way, what's a framework where somebody can always come back to my book if they're, no matter what you're going through in life, if you're trying to figure life out. Like I tried to frame my book as a guide book as well, kind of like a textbook in college. So anything you need in a reference book, anything you need is always a reference in my book that can help you get through some stuff.
That's hot. That's hot. And so you went from the book to now having a website where you have memberships. Talk to us about that.
Yeah. So, I mean, yes, I did start my personal development journey in reading, but what really kept me going is like audio, interacting with the author, being listening to podcasts, and having the accountability. The critical thing in development, personal development, when you're trying to change, or even just stay motivated is um is accountability. So, what's the best? I said, I'm trying to create exactly what I need.
Mm-hmm.
So I knew, like, if I know I have a session every month where I'm going to review my goals, I'm going to think about, my future. I'm going to be intentional. And these are practices that are scientifically based. It's not just, something I think is good scientifically. If you sit down and review your goals, you're going to have a better outcome. You have a better chance of reaching those goals. So I just thought it was good to kind of build a community around personal growth and me be the one to do it. I've spent a ridiculous amount of money on personal growth, personal development. So I mean, I just want to share that with everybody else, anybody that's trying to grow.
That's real, and that's much needed in this community. Me or you are kind of doing the same work, slightly different, but it's kind of the same because I'm a career coach for millennials and Generation Z. So I do programs in the schools with student athletes and just regular athletes. And my specialty is strategic planning and accountability. And accountability is so important, especially to the youngins, because this is a new world, Aisha. Like, things ain't the same. And in my eyes, the youngins just don't get it. And finding creative ways to preach accountability and showing people how to create a strategic plan is so important and vital to our community today.
Absolutely.
Yeah, nah,
Yeah, I mean, and sometimes you said they just don't get it. Sometimes they gotta fall on their face,
yeah.
and that's completely okay. I mean, um, that's kind of how I got it. That's probably how most people get it, is you fall on your face, something tragic happened. Um, you realize you're not as good as you think you is, and now you sitting in some deep darkness, and now you got to figure things out. You know what I'm saying? Um, so yeah, I mean, sometimes the light comes after the dark, and they just gotta figure it out when they hit the ground, and that's fine too.
That's facts. That's facts. That's facts. So, out of everything you've done, been through everything,
Whatever my expectation is, then I definitely can't manage other people and manage a lot of people at that. So, um, yeah, I mean, as far as basketball wise, that's my goal. And but again, I'm not in a rush, but I'm just gonna continue serving Kentucky, and then building my personal brand and trying to get people to care about personal development because we need it.
absolutely, I love that. I love that. So, any last words for anybody that might go through a similar path to you? Got anything to say to them?
I would just say similar path, as in, like,
Just
career wise, or
going on, going through the coaching journey, trying to find their way.
I would say be patient.
Mhm.
I would say also look at yourself when you are saying, when you are aspiring to do something. Look at yourself and be honest with yourself and say, am I really in the can I really execute that? Right? Don't just look at things and be starstruck and say, you know, ooh, I want to do that. Really look at the scope of work and ask yourself, what does this job, or what does this position entail, and how can I develop the skills now to be able to effectively do that job.
Mhm.
A lot of times I personally think people go through the coaching profession like it's a social game, or like it's a social club, or you know we just use the athletes to make us look good and stuff like that, and not really produce or do their job to the best of their ability. um so I would just say be patient and develop skills, and also don't give up on yourself and don't try to be anybody else.
Gosh, you love that, my dog, man. Well, I appreciate you taking the time out to do this. I know you got a lot going on these days, so every minute was appreciated. Y'all see the book in her background, Success is My Major. Where can they find that at?
They can go to successmajorbook.com. And then if you're interested in joining the membership or checking it out, figuring out what it's about, just go to successmajormotivation.com.
Absolutely. And you have a podcast out, correct? Go ahead, let
I
us know. Let
do.
them all know about that too.
I do have a podcast, daily motivation podcast. Go to successmajorpodcast.com, and then you can subscribe to it that way.
Yeah, we're gonna get you right, man. We're gonna get you right. Trying to, we got to spread the love to everybody in the community because we all need it. You see, I be tapping in them. I love those 15-minute day starters. That's what I call it. Like it really gets you going. It gives you that energy you need to start the day. So, salute to you, and I appreciate you, man.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. I appreciate this conversation.
Absolutely, and go Big Blue. Good luck to you the rest of the way.
Appreciate it.
Yep, take care.